When we got to the shores of Normandy, they say there are 4,000 or 5,000 ships out there, and I believe it. There are ships all around you, and the shelling above us, 88s. You could hear them screaming. We call them screaming memes. But we saw ships getting hit, and I remember a tanker blowing up, and there's bodies in the water, and there's debris in the water. And, I was 18 years old, 112 pounds. I was a skinny kid. I finally got down the rope ladder, and with all the gear on, and I get into a LCI landing craft. That's the smaller Higgins boats. And we're heading in, and could hear the 88s screaming over us. And I remember we started heading in, and we came back out, and we started heading in, and we came back out. And I thought it was because of the shelling, thinking we're going to get hit anytime. But I found out years later that the guy that's driving that thing, he's looking for a place to land because the Germans had obstacles in the water to keep us from getting all the way in, so we had to wade in. You've probably seen pictures of that. And so I was so frightened. I was blacked out momentarily. I don't remember getting off the LCI. And I talked to a buddy of mine years later, and I said, "Hey, Gus, tell me, what happened? Did we really wade in the water?" He said, "Don't you remember that?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, we did. We waded in, held our rifles over our heads and everything." So our job was to gather the dead. They didn't want any dead on the beaches, morale of other troops coming in. And so we picked up paratroopers that had landed in the channel erroneously because I don't know what happened, but they dropped them in the wrong place, and parachutes came down over them. These paratroopers are loaded with gear, and they drowned. And so we wrapped them in their parachutes and buried them. We were attached to the 1st Brigade Combat Engineers for provisions, and 4th Division landed on that beach, on Utah Beach. Half of our guys, 2 platoons landed at Omaha and 2 at Utah, and I was at Utah.
So can you talk a little bit about how you ended up in Graves registration? What was that like, and what were you doing in the lead up to D-Day?
Well, you got to go back to when I was a kid, because when I was 5 years old, and again at 7 years old, a few situations in the family with deaths. And so I had a big fear of death as a little boy. They put me in a Catholic school, and you had to attend funeral masses, and so I dropped out of school. I just couldn't handle it. Anyway, when I turned 18, I tried to get in the Air Corps. I went down to take the exam, and my eyes were 20/22, and so I flunked. So then I got drafted and got sent to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and got put in a Graves registration company. I said, "What the hell is that? Graves, And when I heard what I was going to have to do, I thought, I got to get out of this. Well, luckily, at least temporarily, there was an air base next to us, Fort Warren, and they were looking for pilots. This is in March of '44, like 3 months before the invasion. My brother was in the Air Corps. He was a pilot, and my brother-in-law also. And it looked like a glorious thing to be a part of. They walked with a swagger, hats tipped, the girls loved them. Anyway, nobody knows this except me. They lowered the eye requirements to 20/30 with no glasses, so I could pass that. So I took the tests. Everything was great. They notified my company commander, and he hit the roof, and he was very upset. I didn't go to him, first of all. Guys were recruiting, and I said, "Hey, here I am, let's go." So anyway, there was a company going overseas right away. They needed one man. So I was the replacement. The guys were all older than I was. They were all kidding me on the ship on the way overseas. "Don't worry, Chiampa, they're going to turn the ship around, take you home." Roosevelt, our president, said no 18-year-old will set foot on foreign soil. Nobody knows that either. So we shipped out, and on the way over there, in the middle of the night, we're sleeping down in a hold, and all of a sudden there's a big explosion, and the ship was rocking. Everybody's scurried up on the deck, and then found out that there was a torpedo plane that was dropping a torpedo, and the Navy gunner shot him down. That was a big explosion. And the Navy gunner I had met the day before. He was my age, and he showed me his quarters, and we got acquainted. His name was Dennis Reed from Cincinnati, Ohio. I never did get in touch with him after that, and I wish I had, because he really saved our lives.